Hey there, Roy Samuelson here. I've got a book, Voice Actor's Guide to Audio Description Performance, and I'm going to read you the first chapter and give you some context. See how this goes. Story time. Chapter 1, Knowing Your AD Audience. We've got two realities for AD audiences, the way things typically go and a much better way. I am already starting off talking about this idealized version of audio description, and that's something that has always been really important to me. And I always like looking for the win-win. So let's see where this is going. First, let's talk about business as usual. It's the sighted leading the sighted. Imagine going to a movie theater with some friends. You order your popcorn and drink and settle in for some seats. And then the movie starts, but something's missing. Your friends are all laughing, crying, and gasping at the same moments, while you're left feeling not much of anything except isolation from the action on screen and from the people around you. What are they getting that you aren't? You go to the manager and describe your situation. You can tell what this experience should be like based on others' reactions, but it's not happening for you. The manager gives you a shoulder shrug of, I don't know, and a free movie pass. And by the way, this happens all the time to blind audiences. The collection of free movie passes, I don't know if there's like some transactional thing that they can sell them for something on eBay because the stack is huge. You go back to your seat and sit next to your friends who are still clearly engaged in a way that eludes you. You crinkle the free pass, one more to add to the stack you've collected at home. Our AD audiences, most of whom are on the blindness spectrum, feel this frustration more often than not. Even when audio description exists, it tends to assume total blindness from birth. Individual audience members can't adjust the description up or down to meet their needs. As Hannah Weymouth, the avid AD user you met in the introduction, explains, people have varying degrees of blindness, and just because you're blind doesn't mean that you were born blind. A lot of people have gone blind later in life. They've come from a sighted world to a blind world. That's a whole other thing. I used to see, and now I can't. I want to know everything that's happening visually because I remember what things look like. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about that. And back to the story. When AD disappoints, it's often, I think, a consequence of believing we know our audiences better than we do. As a result, many of the people we are trying to reach can end up falling through the cracks. And sometimes our attempts to provide accessibility create access problems. Here are a few of the challenges that crop up. There's something about this good intention thing, and it's this really weird combination of doing the right thing and assuming you're doing the right thing versus actually checking in with the audience and finding out that as blind people who are experiencing audio description all the time, they know what they want. And listening to them gives the insights to be able to deliver what they want. And that's the whole point. And I find that, especially with recently, how AI outside of synthetic voice is bringing more access individually to each individual person. I think there's some opportunities there. Now on to the challenges. Challenge 1. How do you turn this thing on? Oh, technology. All those apps, websites, subfolders, aimless searches, buried settings. User experience can be rough for everyone, but it's often especially excruciating for blind people. AD still isn't available for many titles, particularly films and series that have been around a long time. And when it does exist, simply accessing it can be a major headache. Since audio description doesn't currently travel with the rest of production from cinema to streaming, audiences who need it don't reliably get it. Here's a common complaint. But I saw this movie with AD in a theater. Why doesn't this version I bought have AD on my TV? Just because a movie or show has AD on one platform doesn't mean it will have the same or any AD elsewhere. In the words of Juan Alcazar, a blind filmmaker and audio description quality specialist, he says, a film or show might not even have an audio description track, or even worse, it might actually disappear. I ended up renting a show on iTunes since I have an Apple TV, but only after I rented it did I realize that the Peacock version had AD, not the iTunes version. That's just one of the things that is extremely irritating. A lot of times, tracks don't migrate to the other streaming services. I gotta say, this book concludes with some solutions to that problem, and it's a win-win for everybody. Such inconsistencies in AD access make audiences feel as though they aren't in good hands. They never know for sure if they're going to get a version of a show or movie that they can fully enjoy. And once the AD is turned on, it might not stay on. That means people who have to manually turn it on again and again, sometimes for every single episode of the same show they want to binge watch. And thankfully, that is changing, especially on a lot of the streaming services that audiences speaking up about this have made a difference. To make things more frustrating, episodes may be released without audio description in a series that had it in previous seasons. This isn't a big problem when episodes can stand alone, but when a story is told over multiple seasons and episodes, not having AD for some episodes and not others creates sizable gaps in the plot. In movie theaters, audio description audiences face other accessibility hurdles. They might have to wait until the release date to find out if a film even has audio description. Theaters often provide cordless headsets, but employees sometimes don't understand what those AD headsets do, mistaking them for audio enhancement and handing people devices that just make everything louder. These obstacles to access are relatively straightforward, even simple, but they're widespread, and they're not the only challenge for audiences. Challenge 2. So much AD is just meh. Even when people can access the AD relatively easily, it won't necessarily provide an immersive emotional experience. In fact, it usually doesn't, because of the way industry incentives are aligned. Let's say I run an AD facility that offers a full range of services. I might charge a certain amount in the absence of competition from other facilities. But in the real world, with competition, I'll look for ways to provide those services more cheaply so my company can stay afloat. There is intense pressure for AD facilities to cut costs and corners because AD is one of the first costs their main clients, the streaming services, will cut, instead of seeing audio description as an opportunity to expand market share. A little postscript here. In addition to our many AD audiences, they also have friends and family who watch with them. And AD is not just for blind people. People on the spectrum can get more information that visuals may not fully inform. Also, sighted people use it for other activities like driving or cooking, or just giving their eyes a rest from screens. One of the things that I love about this is I'm trying to make that curb cut effect suggestion to see how this AD can spill over. Back to the story. These distributors may view it as a chore, a hassle, an added expense that takes resources away from other, more exciting areas. So they don't invest much in it. They may even see that lack of investment or try to spin it as a win for audiences. My streaming service saves money by paying less for the AD it provides, so we can do more AD for you. But decisions to slash costs affects audiences in many unintended and negative ways. Consider the impact on audience experience when AD facilities pay their workers less, eliminate entire departments. Do we really need quality control? Or double, triple up on responsibilities, having one person work across several specialized areas. As you can imagine, employees are more likely to miss errors and create new ones as a consequence. With pay rates going down, many AD facilities are losing talented professionals who deliver top-notch work. When those pros leave, inexperienced people are hired to fill their shoes. These results are amateur at best, painful at worst, poor casting, tone problems, heavy breathing, missed cues, bumpy transitions, and you can see the chapter on engineering and quality control for other issues that can stem from meager investment in AD. When cost cutting becomes the focus, AD becomes a roulette wheel of quality. Who or what are you going to get on your project? Will audiences miss out on needed description for essential scenes? Will the script misidentify characters? Will the AD performance sound as if it was recorded in a bathroom? At this point, I remember writing this and thinking, this is so negative. This is so disappointing. I'm trying to bring out, here's where we're at. And there is a solution. There is an answer that is actually pretty hopeful. But we had to set the stage for some of the challenges that we're going through. It was really uncomfortable. I almost wanted to take a shower after writing some of these paragraphs. These things happen when too many costs are cut. Just lost my place. These things happen when too many costs are cut, or when projects become races to the finish. Sometimes AD professionals are given very little time to create and perform the audio description. On more than one job, I've been asked to record several hundred cues within 5 hours of receiving the script and video. For the primetime release of a TV show, I was brought to the studio to record that same afternoon, hours before the premiere. And once, I produced audio description for a film where, at the last minute, we had to fix the pronunciation of a main character's name. It took a team of 4 of us working together to deliver the new recording hours before the client needed the new AD version. I don't even want to think about the mistakes we narrowly avoided. When AD is done cheaply and quickly, quality is going to suffer, and so will audience experience. The people doing the work will become disengaged too. Challenge 3. So much of this stuff is the same. Speaking of a lot of AD has a same old quality, like the overprocessed bologna sandwiches I used to pack in my school lunches. From the mid-2010s and onward, titles for film and TV with AD exploded in number, from several dozen to over 10,000. And if you go to adp.acb.org, you can find out the list of all those titles. I think it's up to 13,000 right now. As AD work has scaled, it's also been streamlined. That streamlining has a lot of benefits, like reducing duplicated effort and reaching more people with more titles. But a major downside to having set ways of doing things is that the workflow becomes a work trough. Flexibility and new approaches are shunned because sameness speeds things up. If it works, we tend not to mess with it. As we keep innovation at arm's length, we fail to improve our processes and we miss creative opportunities to meet audiences where they are. And this book was written before AI became really common. I know synthetic voice is usually associated with AI, so is creating new visuals, that generative AI. But there's also some aspects of AI that can help improve workflow and how we get audio description created. Those repetitive tasks or things that can really get annoying that can be fixed. So there's some opportunities there. Back to the book. Effective AD isn't one size fits all. While standardizing processes increases efficiency and productivity, it's important to leave room for trying new things too. Each film or show has its own story to tell. AD audiences have a spectrum of needs and tastes. Forcing audio description into that same tidy, rigid box each time you produce it makes for a bland experience. That's not entertainment. And again, this is all focused on film and TV storytelling audio description. We're not talking about information-based or educational in this context. Challenge 4. Audiences are forced to sacrifice quality for quantity. Ooh, this one gets me. Studios and streaming services may try to convince themselves and their audiences that cost-cutting and streamlining will increase access. But a crank it out, more is more approach realistically leads to a substandard product. While there's more AD available, the quality can't possibly match what blind audiences know sighted audiences are getting. The name of my company is Parity Endeavors. It's because of that very concept. Pitting quantity against quality unfairly blends two separate issues. It's discriminatory to put blind people in the position of giving up better for the sake of more. And it's bad business too. With the multitudes of high-budget series and features, sighted people aren't expected to make that same trade-off. The 4 challenges above are just some of the problems that leave AD audiences feeling disconnected from shows and films. The end result is a degraded entertainment experience, certainly not what most directors and producers intend. That idea comes back later in the book. Some of the industry might suggest that AD audiences simply need to speak up about these obstacles to more immersive experiences. But why should AD audiences take responsibility for removing the roadblocks? We don't ask sighted audiences to do anything like that. And how should people speak up anyway? By calling customer service, writing strongly worded emails, sharing their frustrations on social media, talking to theater managers? They've tried that repeatedly. Blind AD professionals shouldn't be expected to lead the charge either. They're already quite busy doing their jobs. It's not their role to find and address all obstacles to accessibility. Forcing them into that position tasks them with the extra and sometimes unwelcome work of modeling what to do in an ideal world. In the words of Chad Allen, a blind magician, interactive game consultant, and creator of the audio comic Unseen, and I include a link later in the book, he says, "I don't want to be a pioneer." So that puts their work under a microscope as they're trying to grow in their own careers. And that said, professionalism from all contributors, not just blind ones, is more than fair to expect, and it has a big impact. Whether we're talking about performers, writers, editors, mixers, QCers, or directing and casting professionals, being the weakest link makes for a lesser AD experience. We can all strive to do things better for our AD audiences. Now, let's look at how. Professionalism respects the AD audience. To address challenges such as the ones outlined above, it will take a shared commitment across AD departments to raising standards and approaching this work with greater empathy for our audiences. Their needs should always be front and center. That's professionalism. And it's the road to parity. I used to say parody, and it sounds like parody instead of parity, so I'm always punching that T a little harder. Professionalism can be such an ethereal term. In the context of this book, I'm referring to the artistry, attitudes, ethics, intentions, and responsibilities which lead to respect and accountability among peers, all to merit excellence in collaborations. We can improve the audience experience by providing better audio. So true. Professional AD maintains the quality of the audio from the original production. If the production has Dolby Atmos or surround sound, the AD gets the same treatment. And Apple TV Plus titles have made this a standard to their originals. The overall sound experience is not degraded by a tacked-on extra track that's not like the others. Each track supports and feeds the vision of the film. AD aligns with that vision of the film. It's no different than other approaches to better audio. We can improve access with well-timed AD releases. Sighted and blind audiences should gain access to entertainment content at the same time. To that end, we can create audio description within the regular production process rather than separately in the distribution phase and release the AD with the film or show. That idea comes back and back and back. It's one of the most exciting conclusions that I'm trying to share in this book. I recently worked on a feature film with fully integrated AD. That means it's actually part of the movie for all audiences, not relegated to a track that's played only in certain versions or on special headsets. The basic idea was to shrink the gap between sighted and blind audiences so they could enjoy the experience together. We even incorporated a few jokes within the AD that support the story. This was such an exciting project, unique in its approach. Integrated AD, it's also called Open AD, the audio description that is baked in other words, you can't turn it off, it's part of the film, isn't the best solution for all entertainment media. Let me say that again. Integrated AD or Open AD isn't the best solution for all entertainment media, yet I hope there are many more like it. We can make AD easier to find and customize. If we automatically turn on audio description in default settings, those who want it won't have to hunt for it, and others can simply turn it off. This approach isn't uncommon with closed captioning and enhancements like Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision. Why not extend it to AD? The convenience of having it all up and running, like any other premium feature, allows audiences to personalize access to meet their particular needs. And yes, I am making the argument that accessibility is an enriching feature. An AD audience experience of the immersive story is a form of accessibility. I'm going to repeat that. AD audience's experience of an immersive story is a form of accessibility. We can also give AD audiences access to who's worked on what. Before a film or TV show even comes out, we can let audiences know which AD performers and AD writers they'll get. People who regularly use audio description have their favorite pros. They should have the chance to opt out if they don't like an AD lineup, just as they might if they didn't care for one of the actors, for instance, or the director or screenwriter. Knowing ahead of time who worked on the film makes an impact on audiences at large. Reputations of AD professionals and AD facilities also has an impact on our AD audiences. The ADNA.org, by the way, is that IMDb-like resource for audio description. And recently, the American Council of the Blind had the People's Choice Awards, where the best of the best for audio description was celebrated. We can make inclusion a priority, thanks in no small part to public comments on the Read My Mind podcast, which explores topics related to blindness and disability. AD facilities have been taking steps to make appropriate hiring decisions that align with the entertainment content. One of the biggest challenges they've made, with potentially the greatest impact, is understanding the collaboration of disabled professionals, in other words, hiring AD performers and other professionals on the blindness spectrum to the AD teams. Now here's Satana Howery, a voiceover artist who understands firsthand what it's like to rely on poorly cast AD. She says, "I was born blind. I don't have any sight at all. And so I am an audio description narrator, but also a consumer of audio description, which means I'm pretty opinionated about it too. I watched a few episodes of a show on Netflix. The woman they cast to describe was like a grandmother who wouldn't know what was up for a 16-year-old if it conked her on her head. That's how I feel when I listen to her. And it was not that she did a bad job of performing it at all. It was just that she was the wrong person to be doing it." Efforts to increase inclusion in AD work are still in their infancy, and many shows still struggle to make appropriate hiring choices. Why? When projects are rushed by distribution, or when facilities lack resources, both common issues, decision makers are less likely to spend time seeking out AD pros from marginalized groups, such as those with disabilities, people of color, and LGBTQ+ professionals. Instead, they bring in talent that's easy to find and schedule, which may lead to the wrong fit and limits opportunities for others to work, learn, and advance in their careers. This is all about opportunity here. When inclusion is prioritized, however, studios and facilities gain access to a much wider world of talent and increase their odds of finding AD performers, writers, and quality control pros who are a more logical fit for their projects. That makes it a significant difference in creating an immersive experience for AD audiences. Let's wrap it up. This kind of intersectionality requires an extra layer of consideration, but the rewards are great and worth pursuing. All of this adds up to creating and delivering a professional project. In short, AD that's professionally produced at every step of the process makes it equally easy for blind and sighted audiences to access and enjoy great movies and shows. I really punched that word enjoy, didn't I? It allows us to provide more and more emotional, nuanced, and immersive experiences to people who often don't get them in their environment, which means we'll eventually, if we keep at it, normalize these experiences. Everyone, blind or sighted, will simply come to expect them, as well they should. And then I go on to chapter 2, bringing your A game to audio description performance. If you're interested in this book, go to roysamuelson.com/book, and you can learn more about some comments that other people have said about it. And thanks for listening or watching.